At Dave Cooper Live, we connect the industry leaders in the architectural, engineering, and construction space with the people, the products, and the processes to help them build it better. All right. Imagine never failing another blower door test again. Imagine sealing a building envelope so precisely, so efficiently that it revolutionizes energy efficiency, indoor comfort, and even air quality. Welcome to Dave Cooper Live. Today, we're diving into technology so advanced it's turning the building industry on its head. Join us as we welcome Hugh Franklin, head of AeroBarrier UK, who's here to reveal the secrets behind AeroBarrier and Aeroseal, two groundbreaking solutions revolutionizing how we seal buildings and ductwork with cutting-edge aerosol mist. That's right, I said mist, that seeks out and seals even the tiniest leaks, and duct sealing technology that works from the inside out. These innovations are redefining what's possible in construction, whether you're a builder, an architect, or simply passionate about smarter, more sustainable building practices. This is going to be the episode packed with insights you're not going to want to miss. The future of building science is here, and it's happening right now. But before we get into any of that, we have to give a big shout out to all of our supporting members. We'll be right back. Forward Solutions Group is successfully driving companies to succeed where others have failed. Are you looking to start a factory? Optimize your existing factory, streamline your production, or take your team to the next level? Whatever your needs are, Forward has a solution for you. Reach out to Ben at forwardsolutionsgroup.com. Howick Ltd. has a long history of innovation in cold form steel manufacturing and producing innovative precision roll forming technology for customers throughout the United States and the world. Check out their machine buyer's guide for off-site modular construction or fast build construction with light steel for framing. Go to their website, howickltd.com. Brought to you by Graitec, one of the largest Autodesk partners globally and software developer of the Powerpack, Advanced Design, Advanced Steel, and the StrucSoft product line. The complete solution to automate wood and light gauge steel framing, design, and documentation all the way out to CNC output. Model, design, and manufacture with StrucSoft. Learn more at StrucSoftSolutions.com. All right. Again, thank you to all of our supporting members, and one more that we always have to give a shout out to, Cobalt Creed. They are the fine folks that help keep Dave Cooper Live powered up. So how about a big shout out to Sean Intagliata and Dave Stewart from Cobalt Creed. They are into high velocity, small duct heating and cooling systems in a big way globally. You've probably seen them on this old house maybe 30 times. So go check them out and tell them that we sent you. And hey, say thank you, because we cannot bring you all of these informative conversations without them and all of our other sponsors. All right, let's get into it. Let's bring Hugh Franklin onto the show. Hugh, how are you, my friend?
Very good, Dave. How are you getting on?
I am getting on great, and I know you're getting on with your day. It's what, 6, 7, 8 o'clock in the United Kingdom right now.
Yeah, just coming up to 7 p.m. now, so it's been a good one.
Well, listen, it's going to be a good evening for you because you're on our show, and there's so many people that really need to know what you guys do, what it's all about. I can't wait to hop into this. But before we do that, Hugh, we want to know everything about you from the moment you were born to this very moment in time. Do not leave out any of the good stuff from the hospital, or we're going to have your mother on the show. But you only have a minute and a half to do it, and then we're going to get into AeroBarrier UK.
Fantastic. Okay. I mean, I've been on building sites since I could walk. Grew up on them as a family. It's a classic thing. You always see it on the TV as well. Grand Designs here in the UK. This old house, of course, in the States. Being out and doing it as a job, as a family, and then continuing on into my job. I started out in archaeology, so on building sites and excavating projects all over the world. And I was desperate, instead of digging back at the past and just looking backwards, what can we learn from the past and how can we apply it to the future? So I moved into heritage restoration and then started in this game. So that's where I've come into looking at what we can do to the buildings we live in and the buildings that we're going to be building over the next 20 odd years, about how we can improve them and make them less wasteful and more sustainable, resilient, and ready for that net zero future that we're all driving towards. So that's a little bit about me.
Oh my God, you got a job. You want your own show? I'm going to put you on here. That's everything we do, right? It's everything we talk about. So, this is really cool. I've heard of AeroBarrier and Aeroseal, several times throughout the years. I've run into it in a few factories, VBC and others that have been using it, and that's volumetric building companies. Tell me a little bit about what your role is at AeroBarrier UK, and then I want to get into what this technology is and what this technology does from there on out. Go for it.
Absolutely. So in the UK, AeroBarrier is the big one. We'll talk about the two different kinds of technology right now, but in the UK, it's all around making your buildings less leaky. We have some of the draftiest housing stock in Europe, and essentially my role in the business is to help drive and make sure that we can get out to as many buildings, new build and retrofit projects as we can. So going out, talking technical, helping to explain the system and what it does really. The background here is all around leakage. So as I say, we heat our buildings and it all just evaporates out through drafts, through gaps and cracks in the building. It's a big problem here in the UK, and that's really what we're doing and solving for homeowners and builders all over the country.
I will tell you, I have a new older house and it is leaking like a sieve everywhere. So maybe we can use your product here in our house as well, because not only does it seal the home, there's a product for that, but there's also a product that actually seals your ductwork. So if you're an existing homeowner or building over, whether it's commercial or residential, I'm assuming this works for both.
Absolutely. And as you say, leakage is one of those things that happens everywhere. So you've got ductwork and you might have your AC unit or your furnace. It's doing all the hard work. It's creating all that hot or that cold, depending on where you are. And then between the box and where it's being pushed out into your home, there's so much leakage. All that ductwork lives outside of the envelope. So you've got all of this essentially just energy and money that you're just bleeding into the atmosphere. So sealing that ductwork is super important, and even more so in ducts that have already exist or are in buildings. It's the same in commercial spaces, of course, as well, and equally in that new build scenario too. So that's the duct side of the business, and it's all around making sure. I mean, imagine having, oh gosh, I don't know, an oven door, but half the pane of glass is missing. And you're going, I can't believe it's taking me 4 hours to cook this meal. It's exactly the same kind of problem in ducts. So it's precisely the same thing we're trying to solve.
What inspired the creation of AeroBarrier and Aeroseal? And tell me a little bit about how these technologies are addressing some of the biggest challenges in energy efficiency buildings today. Obviously, there was somebody with an idea and a passion that decided, hey, we got to do something better. I don't know who looks at an aerosol spray can and says, yeah, I can make this seal thing out, but walk me through it.
Yeah, so the chap who came, the brainchild of the whole event, is a chap called Dr. Mark Madeira, a very inspiring person and incredibly pragmatic. And it's all born from the fact, well, from my understanding at least as well, of his studies abroad in Scandinavia. For those who know a little bit about Scandinavian building, passive house and this eco building is so part and parcel of the existence of living in countries like Norway, Sweden, and Finland. So the whole concept is born around this idea of how can we find a way to make buildings not waste so much energy? And so the concept was developed there and went back to University of California, Davis, and West Coast, so WCEC, which is the West Coast Energy Conservatory, part of UC Davis, and looking at how can we learn and use a targeted approach rather than putting a product everywhere and having to rip everything apart to try and find a solution. Is there a way we can get the thing we want to seal, which is this little liquid, into the zones of the building where it's actually happening without breaking and it causing huge expense and disruption? And so the first iteration of this was the AeroSeal system for the ductwork, because everyone, that's a huge portion of the market and a big portion of cost for people during the winter and the summer seasons. So solving it there. But Dr. Mark Dara's passion pan has always been buildings. And so it was just when can we get this to work in a building envelope? And so in 2016, along with Honda, there's this great project called the Honda Smart Home over in California. And they built this home and they use this atomized sealing system. And all the gaps and cracks all sealed up through the process in 2016, only just replicated in the UK on the same academic level.
Wow.
And he's so involved. He's a fantastic chap. So that's the process and the background of the system.
Tell you what, we have a video lined up here. There's no sound, but can you walk us through exactly what we're seeing so we can show the audience how this works? Absolutely,
no problem. So we've got a single story house here. Other houses are available. What we do is essentially what a blower door test or an air tightness test, which is you're checking how drafty and how leaking this building is. So we cover up all the gaps and cracks as sort of ducts, fireplaces, and around your window sashes. And we wheel these little stations into the building. Now, these are the big bits of kit that are the smart system. So it's a tech-driven system, this. It's all about controlling this through a computerized process. And we pop these little stations all through the building. Now, it's a very simple process. First of all, we pump the building up like a bicycle tire. So we're pushing air into the building. Now everything leaks, much like if you get a flat on the highway. And all the air is leaking out this building under this pressure because we're pushing all this air in. So you've got a really big hole, the size of my fist, loads of air is leaking out. If you've got a tiny pinprick of a hole as well, only a small amount of air is leaking out that building. Now, this is incredibly common about how we check how leaky buildings are. This is the tried and tested methodology since the 80s, really. Now, the really cool thing about what we do is this next bit. So under that pressure, what we do is we put a mist coat of the sealant into the building. This is exactly the same as if you find a hole and you plug it up with a bit of, air tightness paint or something like that. But ours is much finer. And this fog is drawn and basically sucked out of all these holes in the building by that escaping air. A really big hole has lots of air leaking out of it. More sealant is drawn to it. A very small hole in the building only has a small amount of air leaking out of it. So a small amount of sealant is drawn to it. Now, the really cool bit is that because it's computerized and, again, fully tech-driven here, we're able to track how airtight the building gets minute by minute. So this really helps to optimize all the extra stuff you put into your home, from furnaces, from solar panels, from choosing your glass, everything like that. And we can stop it at any point. So therefore, every time if you're building lots of projects, you can achieve consistent results. And that's the really tough thing with air tightness, is getting consistency. Because imagine the number of holes you have in the building. You've got, back boxes for your electrics, pipes like that, everything along those lines. There's so much going on. Air tightness is really tough to organize. So what we then do is we stop at the point we're happy, and simply then we pull all the sealing stations back out of that building. We take off all of our tape, and we're going to be able to provide you with the certificate at the end showing what the building started at. Even if it's a good score, take it to great. If it needs a little bit of help to get compliance and achieving code, then we can also stop there. So it's a really effective system and fully dialable. So you can consistently and repeatably and measure where all the leakage is happening. It's exactly the same process between the building, which is AeroBarrier, the product AeroBarrier, and our duct sealing system, AeroSeal. Precisely the same process for both.
So walk me through the process of this. So AeroBarrier, is it for new construction or empty buildings, or could it also have fully furnished houses and buildings bring it in and use it?
Typically, it's for projects going under renovation, so new build and some existing. But let's say there's it's a little bit more invasive than the aeroseal system can be. The aeroseal system is confined to the ductwork. So obviously, regardless of whether it's a new ducting system or an existing ducting system, you only need to lock it off from the furnace for a little while. In a building, of course, we're trying to get to all the nooks and crannies, all these gaps and cracks all around the building. So ideally, we want a bit more space, rummage around and find them, because otherwise, there's too much stuff in the way. It's got too far to drive. So it's a bit of both, but anything's achievable, they always say.
Yeah, absolutely. So anybody out there then could use the AeroSeal system, regardless whether you're living in your home or not living in your home. It's a perfect way to increase your energy efficiency and seal up all the holes and all the leaks that are happening, which is going to give you better air quality and obviously better utility bills is what we're all striving for these days.
Fantastic. And yeah, exactly. It's the concept of people saying, I want my building to breathe. And what they really mean is I want fresh air. Now, they are two very different things, because if you imagine having a hole in the brickwork or in through a stud wall or something, that's not fresh.
Right.
It's coming through insulation, through plasterboard. If everyone's maybe in a fit of rage, punched a hole in the wall, it's not clean and pristine back there. It's no operating room, is it? There's a lot of spiders and all this, mold, pests, everything back there. So it's all about trying to create a fresh indoor air quality, which, as you say, has that double whammy effect of making your home more energy efficient and saving you money.
So we have a large audience of manufacturers around the world, right, that are doing projects from everything from single family ADUs all the way up to mid-rise, high-rise, modular volumetric panel buildings. Talk me through how they would use this system in a manufacturing environment. I believe Oakwright is using it in England. Walk us through, what is the process for this? If I'm seeing this show and I'm saying, all right, Hugh has a cool accent. He's a young fellow that seems to have his stuff together and knows this inside and out. What do I do, Hugh, if I'm interested in working with you?
Absolutely. So the way we look at this and the kind of the big three items that you can say from a manufacturing perspective, number one is the repeatability that you're already building into the project. It's kind of like waving your kid goodbye as they go to university. You're like, I've tried my very best. I've built it perfectly here. And now I get to hold my heart and hope they've listened to me when I've explained what's going on. And it goes to site, and then all manners of things can happen, freshers week, the first week at university, and they get all sorts of strange ideas. It's the same when your products go to building sites. Once it's out your hands, it's out your hands. Our aim here is to bring you back that control. So you can say all these elements that you've taken time in order to get precision specified correctly, we can help that with that final domino, which is that air tightness score. So that's the big one from the design side is on the manufacturing, MMC builders, you put it together, you build it, spot on. We make sure that air tightness, those drafts don't make it into your project through potential second fix or items that go a bit wrong on site. You're a builder. You're on site, you're building it, you've got high-rise items like that. You're going to be having potentially 150 different air tests, thousands of air tests going on. And every time you have a really airtight home, you get a really low energy score. But Mrs. Jones next door to John Doe might be having a really leaky home. So when they start talking, why is my energy bill 3 times higher than yours? They start digging back through all the paperwork you've promised in the same house. It's all about achieving that consistency in that score as they go. And that's really the big driver here is that painful day. I dare any builder to ask a site manager or their site super, say, hey, how do you feel on air tightness day? None of them go, oh, it's a really stress-free day, super relaxed. I have zero problems. There's always that little feeling, the butterflies in the stomach. And that's exactly the drive we take away.
Well, hey, listen, I mean, if you're trying to go to net zero, passive house standards, lead, any of them,
Mm.
I mean, it's a high stakes game. And, a lot of people don't realize that, nail holes, a missed nail going into a stud, you do that, 30, 40, 50 times on a roof, that's the size of a baseball. Leakage.
Absolutely. And the
Yeah.
key there as well is also to remember that there is nothing structurally wrong with doing that. It's not the roofer's fault that's happened. The roofer is not your airtightness guy.
Yep.
Going, I can't believe they've missed all these spots, or the electrician going, I can't believe they put these cables through the wall. Their job is not to make that building airtight. So you're asking these guys to know about something that's really important to the building, but it's not their job. Their job is to, fit cable or put slates on the roof.
Right.
That's it's trying to bring that all back.
Well, it is, but it's
Mm,
also about educating your team and step and repeat
mm.
so they don't cause more work than they need to as well. And I think most construction companies, if you have your stuff together, have what they call an air boss. I'm an air boss, right? I went to Sega's training with Etienne, but understanding that you gotta seal it tight, to get it right is basically what it means. And it's not a perfect process, and that's really where AeroBarrier and Aeroseal come in, because they can make up for the efficiencies or deficiencies that one can't see that happen behind the wall or at the sill plates or band joists or whatever people call it today.
Absolutely. Another thing as well is that I always think, expecting perfection as standard is very hard. And it's also a lot of the time unreasonable, and it's expensive. That's the key thing. It's if you go, I need consistently to be 100%. I mean, that's not life. That we are people after all, and stuff either gets missed or, certain nuances happen. And our big driver is to say, we can take that one big element away. And for passive house, as you say, for LEED, for IECC regulations, we're measuring airtightness at the very end of the project. But the problems where airtightness are made are almost right at the start. And there's this big gap in the middle where you can do an awful lot of damage if you're not careful, and no one's looking after it. And as you say, as an air boss, I'm an airtightness champion, is the word we use here. It's like the most thankless job in the world, because they go, you've got a guy on site, he's your airtightness champion, and you go, he goes, oh, excellent. Do I get a pay rise? No. Do I get more responsibility? No. What happens is you just get given, you get the 7 shades of hell beaten out you every day because you're having
Yeah.
to tell the electrician that they've done something wrong. It's so our aim is to try and take that horrible pain away from them all.
Oh, that is so true. And it's so funny, right? Because you are the one that has to pay attention to everything they're doing and everybody else is doing. And they just want to get in and get out and make their money.
Absolutely.
Very much so. Let's get into some facts on this a little bit. Tell me a little bit about the material that's being used. Is it healthy?
Yeah, absolutely. We have something called Green Guard Gold certification. It's an ultra low VOC, so they're volatile organic compounds, and they're the things in. Let's say you go into a bathroom that's been recently, siliconed and caulked, and you know how it stinks. That's exactly what we don't have. That's what's called off-gassing. That's all these nasty chemicals coming into the air, and they smell really horrid. So we have this ultra low VOC compound. The other key thing there is that we don't have to use too much, because it's not going everywhere. It's only hunting out those leaks and gaps and cracks in the building. We're incredibly product light, which makes it really low embodied carbon, which is something that's worth really, really considering when we build projects these days. And it also means that there's not loads and loads of it going into the building. So it's not hugely time consuming. It doesn't slow down the project as well. We're in control of the building as it's all being installed. So you're not having this, coming into some, insulation everywhere, everything like that. It's very targeted, which means it's super lightweight, really, which is really important.
And with that, what about the longevity of it? What have the studies shown? I mean, how long does it last? Obviously, it hasn't been around 100 years to say we can last 100 years, but we could believe we could be around 100 years. Walk me through that.
Absolutely. So we do, simulated durability testing and fatigue testing, much like, as you say, you mentioned Sega, you've got all the tape brands out there, none of us have been around for 100 years in that scenario, but we've done all the fatigue testing, and we've taken up to hurricane wind speeds. So, really aggressive weather, which is like 5,000 pascals of pressure, which is about 100 times harder than a standard air tightness test, with no seal breakages at those pressures. And all the standard testing that goes on to all of these products, we've undertaken the same, because, it's in all of our homes as well.
Right.
So, it's you want it, if it's going in your own place, you want to make sure it's all good too. And we all want the same goal really, which is achieving long-lasting, resilient homes. So yeah, we hold ourselves to a high standard too.
Let's say I have a baseball size hole that I can't see in my house somewhere,
Mhm.
right? Somebody cut a 4-inch plumbing pipe and then covered it up before the air boss got to it, that type of
Mhm.
thing. How big of a hole can this actually fill? Does it just keep building up until it fills it?
Yeah. So the maximum hole that we specify we can fill is 1/2 inch. So 12 millimeters for the new money crowd out there. So that is, yeah, as I say, it's a chunky hole, and especially when we can organize up correctly, it means that we can really hunt out those leaks. But let's say you've got a problem like that. The great thing is that the AeroBarrier doesn't discriminate against air leakage in any area. If there's a big old hole somewhere, even if you want it there or you don't want it there, the AeroBarrier is going for it. Like a
Yeah.
bloodhound. So if it's a really big hole, what our teams will do as well is they will be able to hunt out and identify leakage during the process, because the air barrier will try and seal it and it will start to seal the corners, but it might not make it fully across the hole. So it leaves like a little breadcrumb trail on its way to the hole. And we use manual processes. Like I say, we are part of the whole solution here. So build it well and we'll take it to excellent. So, if the teams find a big hole, they'll tape it up manually. Because if you imagine a 1 millimeter by 1 millimeter hole, that needs 1 mil squared of sealant. If we have a
Mhm.
10 mil by 10 mil hole, that needs 10 millimeter, 100 millimeter squared of sealant. It takes 100 times longer. So we want to seal that manually, so the AeroBarrier finds the gaps that we can't. Don't want to sit back and watch it in awe as it fills this enormous hole. But I can do that quickly and allow the sealant really to drive into the gaps I would never find. So that's how we use that. It's a combination process. And I think that's really important and a big differentiator between if you think that's leaking, you don't know as a build, you go, maybe it's leaking, maybe it's not. I should probably tape it up. That wastes so much time. 2 to 3 days on site, on average, is wasted double handling leakage. That baseball hole might not be leaking. So it's a
Yeah,
huge
no, that
time
makes,
waste.
I mean, that makes a ton of sense. So what
Mm.
about cost on this? I know it's different in the UK than it probably is here. But there's a cost to everything. There's a cost to failing tests. There's a cost, right, to not having the energy efficiency that your client wanted, and they're not too happy with you as a builder or developer. So walk me
Mhm.
through, how does one determine what something like this costs?
So we price, and again, typically AeroBarrier and Aeroseal is priced on one of two metrics. Number one, how airtight do you need that building to go? From where? So if you're really, really leaking, it needs to be super passive house, like excellent. Obviously there's an additional cost to that. The other thing, but equally, if you're a good level, and you just need a small jump. It's not too, the cost difference isn't too radical. The other way we price it is on floor area, because that's the simplest way of understanding the time and the cost. Because we're so targeted, we don't really want to charge you for an eco premium. There's no cost for trying to build better. It's not the kind of game. If you talk to anyone who builds eco homes, they're going, "Oh, there's a premium. It's 30% more expensive."
Right.
It's nuts. Why do we charge you for trying to be good? It's like taking money away for getting good grades. It's just silly. So what we instead price on is area, because a really big airtight house
Mhm.
might use less sealant than a really small leaky house. But the big airtight house always takes longer to do. So we price it based on that process there of floor area. And in the UK, that works out between £8 to £12 a square meter, which is, let's say you're building, as your standard builder, you're building 1,500 to
Mhm.
1,200 to 1,500 square foot homes. In the UK, your cost is probably coming in somewhere between 800 to £1,000, so $1,000 to $1,200 in UK conversions, and that's for our MMC builders and for those who are really driving out and pushing this forwards.
How come we're not seeing this all over the place, right? I mean, it's something that's been around for quite a few years now. It's starting to
Mhm.
gain traction. But I mean, this just makes all the sense in the world to me, especially if, if you're building something new, or you're trying to retrofit an old house, or you're just a homeowner that bought an old house and wants better energy efficiency. Why aren't we seeing you guys all over the place? What's happening?
Nervousness. So airtightness has always been scary to all these builders.
Yeah.
It's that one thing you'd never look at. The other thing that really changes it is the new regulations that we see both in the US, in the UK, and in Europe are really focusing on air leakage as an area of energy wastage, We've tried everything else in the book right now. We've got our glazing. We're up to 3 panes of glass in the UK now, triple glazed windows. We've got, a foot of insulation in the loft. You've got everything going on about trying to get these buildings more airtight, more improved in everything else they do, heat pump systems, all of those sorts of things. And we're running out of options. They went, maybe this one really big area, but something we're very nervous about, we're going to have to look at. And so that's where we've been really driving now. We're in 4 continents now. We're in Europe, US, Middle East, Australia, New Zealand as well, and we're growing every day, every month, really. So we're expanding all around the world, and we have a real mandate to improve energy efficiency. So yeah, we've got I say on an international scale, there's a huge appetite for this, and we see that in the Clean Tech 100, where we've won some fantastic awards as well as for innovation and improvement of product.
Yeah, listen, I wouldn't be shocked at all if the industry started mandating that even older homes be brought up to new efficiency codes, right? And this is going to be a way that can be done, in my opinion, in a cost-effective way.
Absolutely. And in the UK, for example, we have our equivalent of the HERS rating system, which is called an EPC. In the UK now, there is a mandate by government that no existing homes are going to be allowed to be re-leased if they've got a poorer performance than a certain rating. Mm-hmm. So you can't keep renting out as a landlord homes that are very leaky and cost an awful lot to run. There is a mandate now that if you want to release your home or release a property, it has to achieve an EPC-C. So that's a huge driver. And by reducing the drafts and improving the air tightness, it's the big step in improving that. So that's a massive mandate here, and it's big on government.
Walk me through, just what are the biggest challenges that you have in the industry right now for what you're doing? Is it the lack of education, the lack of knowledge, just not enough of you to get around everywhere? What's the biggest challenge you have?
I think education. We educate every day. I think that's so important about this, and I don't think there's ever going to be a day where we don't have to educate, or equally that there's nothing to learn. Like, you're never going to know everything about the construction industry. The other big one is crazy. It's really that if you want to scale rapidly into the industry, you have to be able to look at something in the line item on your bill of quantities, as we call it in the UK, the list of items that you buy, the costs, everything there, and say, I'm going to take that out and I'm going to put this in. Now, air tightness has never been on that list, because it's been something that's been done in the background. You can't say, I'm going to take out the drywall and I'm going to put AeroBarrier in. You can say, oh, these guys do drywall 30% cheaper than those guys, I'm going to use this new system. Air tightness is one of those things that's been ignored, and therefore there's nothing in the line item. Those who build eco homes know so well how much energy, how much labor, how much cost goes into it, which is why we're scaling hugely quickly into that market right now, is scaling air tightness, making this deliverable at scale. But when we're talking to the big builders in the UK especially, right now, it's that conversation about, well, what am I going to save money on? And it's that snagging budget. It's that cost of the remedials, that slippage cost at the end, saying you can reduce that budget, and showing them and proving that to them in reality is the big driver here. You don't have to worry about 3 days of delay. You can get that project handed over up to completion faster than you ever done before. That's the cost saving. So that's our big driver at the moment, is getting them to understand the value.
All right, I got a tough question for you, and it's for the factory owners out there. The factory depends on lines constantly moving and running. Can this system be used in a manufacturing environment, or does it have to be put in a sealed area for this to happen? Or can it happen in the environment that it's going down the line?
So again, VBC, a classic one here. It's one of those things where in the herringbone, it might need its own station on that main plant line. But there is absolutely no reasons to why the system cannot be integrated in exactly the same way that you would fit joinery, you'd fit windows, you'd have, if you're doing full volumetric, or you're doing full closed panel system where you're building in a manufacturing context, where you have operatives running into the project and running onto specific zones of a build, that we can absolutely handle, and we've proven that in practice. The actual real benefit is if you make all of the inputs for all of your services and utilities before you AeroBarrier a project, you're actually able to really, isolate a space and time that means that you're solving a problem that wouldn't be solved in reality until it got to the building site. And that's the key principle behind all of these items, isn't it? It's if you're able to integrate this into a controlled environment, you're able to take one element of the variability out. It's that variability reduction. And yeah, obviously in a manufacturing context, there are going to be some certain things, but it can be done on the line. Again, when you introduce new kit, you have to make some space for it. And I don't know a single factory owner who has space available. They managed to fill it like I fill my garage, but
it's very true.
Yes.
It's very, very true. So again, and let's say I'm a factory and I want to integrate this into my lines. Is this something that I could have my own AeroBarrier person trained in-house, buy the equipment, or is it always got to go through a third party?
Well, a third party. I mean, AeroBarrier Aeroseal. We look after the technology and the process, of course.
Yep.
I mean, I would recommend you look straight into the DOE and the VBC explanation of how we integrate into factories there. I think it was a very collaborative approach, and it really showed what can be done.
Sure.
But there's no conversation you can't have, is there? So
that's right.
I'd probably go there.
Is there anything that we didn't talk about, Hugh, before we wrap up here today?
Gosh, I don't think so. I think the main thing's all going to be, I think it's simply just going to be about, don't think about us as an airtightness company. That's the one thing. We are not an airtightness company. We are a project improvement, speed improvement, snagging reduction, and money saving business. That's what airtightness can be to every building company out there.
Hugh, man, this is awesome. And I can't wait to talk a little bit more about this on the show. I can't wait to actually go film this at a factory somewhere or in somebody's house, because I think a lot of people should be taking a look at this technology. I do think it's something that can help with the lack of skilled labor, right? Because we have a lot of lack of skilled labor. There's going to be issues because there's not enough trades for us to do what we need to do to get it right, to seal it tight, right? And I think this is one way for business owners to kind of hedge their bet that they're not going to lose more time and lose weeks, because you do an energy audit, you fail, and they say, well, we can't get back for 2 weeks. Well, that's time and that's money versus the cost of what this would be, which is probably less than 2 days, 3 days of labor or something like that. I couldn't imagine how it could be that expensive. So I appreciate it, man. Thank you for coming on today, and thanks for sharing all this with us. And it was awesome meeting you at the product launch in London. That's where we met, and that was pretty cool as well, because I mean, we had politicians there, everybody was there, and then who walks in? Hugh Franklin, CEO of AeroBarrier UK. So you can't argue that.
No, it was fantastic, and thank you so much. And as I say, anyone who has any questions and queries, do get in touch. We're scaling fast and we're driving really hard. So get in touch, and we'd be happy to work with anyone and all.
Are you hiring?
Oh, absolutely, every day.
You heard that on this show, everybody, right there. They're hiring too. So if you're looking to be part of something that's innovative, that's moving forward, that's changing how we build, so we can build more efficient, more sustainable, and healthier environments for everybody that works in them or lives in them, I think that is the way forward. Hugh, don't go anywhere. I'll come back to you right after the outro here. Again, make sure you say a big thank you to all of our supporting members, and not just the ones that are going across the bottom of your screen. Reach out to Hugh and talk to him about what you can do for you and how his systems may fit into what you're working on. And once again, we have all of these sponsors as well. We can't do this, and we can't bring any of these informative conversations to you without them. I'm Dave Cooper. Hugh, stay right there. Thanks for watching. What an amazing show. Thank you to all of our sponsors for helping us to continue to bring all of these innovative conversations to all of you out there. Please visit them, see what they have to offer you. And as always, subscribe to the YouTube channel and ring that bell. It would mean the world to us. I'm Dave Cooper. Thanks for watching.